Hello, and Kate here. One of the things that I often say to my clients and to other course creators is that the one thing that makes your course special, that makes it stand out, that makes it unlike any other course is that you are part of that course. You are the differentiator. And that's why this particular topic of being authentic as a course creator is incredibly vital. You see, your course may be in a niche that has lots and lots of other courses that are out there. Maybe it's about baking an apple pie. Maybe it's about purifying your water. Maybe it's about losing the weight. God knows there's a lot of courses about losing weight. So the differentiator is not always the course topic or even your approach. The differentiator is you. People want to connect with you. And there are many different ways that course creators seek to make their content better. Like they might go, I'm going to make it more logical. I'm going to give them a lot more information. That happens way too often. I'm going to chunk it better. I'm going to gamify it. I'm going to use micro learning. I'm going to use stories. All of these methods are incredibly great. I mean, these are good methods that I've used for a very long time. They're important. And they are ways to make your content stand out, but nothing that you can do in that particular realm of adult learning, instructional design, in all the new fringes, new technology, nothing makes it stand out more than just you being your authentic self. Now, if you think for a minute of the classes and the courses and the things that you've done in your past where you really, really loved that particular class, in most cases, it's not because of the content. Now, I know there's sometimes courses that you love, like maybe you love history and you hated your history teacher, right? But then there are those courses like my college history courses in which the professor would sometimes come in clothed in full costume. So I remember one time he came in as a Spanish conquistador, and it was really helpful because you could kind of see the ridiculousness of a Spanish conquistador coming into contact with the indigenous peoples and saying in his native language that these people are now part of the Holy Roman Catholic Church. I mean, the ridiculousness of it all comes to mind when you see him in full costume, and that was fabulous. And then I also remember this beautiful woman, Patty Phillips. She wrote this book and several others with her husband. And she taught this class that I went to. It was 3 days. And she taught about how to calculate the return on investment of your learning and development program. And she's calculated return on investment in lots of programs, not all learning and development, but lots of programs. And what I loved about her, like, yeah, she was an okay facilitator. She wasn't a bad facilitator, but the most important part of her was just her authentic self. All that experience that she had working in all these different projects where she had worked with them to calculate return on investment so that they could show this is the financial return that we've had. We put this much money in and we got this much money out. And it was a fabulous thing. Most of all, at the end, she gave each of us her personal phone number and said, text me or call me if you ever have a question. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. That's pretty fabulous. And that's very, very authentic. So what I loved about these two teachers and many other teachers like them is the way that they came across in just being comfortable with who they are. Now, that's an incredibly great goal, right? Go on camera, be comfortable with who you are. But it does have some barriers to accomplishing that. Number one, you may not feel comfortable on camera. That gets better with lots of practice. I have had a lot of practice in front of the camera. I still am not the best person in front of camera that you've ever seen. There's lots of people who are better, but lots of practice will help you get comfortable in front of the camera. So I highly encourage it. The other part is you may not be comfortable with who you are. And that is a harder nut to crack. Furthermore, you may not even know who you are, right? And we can look at people, like most of the stuff that we learn through practice or we learn through mimicking other people. And I can look at people like the history professor and Patty Phillips and say, I want to be like they are. I want to be more authentic. But if I mimic them, then I'm not being myself. That's not the goal. Then I just become a very bad version of Patty Phillips. And I don't want to be that. I want to be a very good version of myself. So there's no one I can look to that is me other than me. So how do we crack this nut? How do we get an idea of who we are? This is not something that is an easy to accomplish task, because who I am today is not even who I'm going to be 5 years from now. So this is like a moving target. So with all these barriers, how do we do this? And I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you, because these barriers of being comfortable in front of the camera and being comfortable with myself, these are battles that I have personally faced and am still learning to conquer. And I bet there's a lot of you out there that are like that too. So let's take a look at the outside. It's so hard to sometimes get a clear vision of who we are when we're inside of ourselves. You know, we've got all this data and all this chatter going on, but let's just calmly take a breath and try to imagine who we are as seen from the perspective of other people, the people that we love, the people that we're comfortable with. So imagine, do you have a sense of who you are when you're most comfortable, when you're relaxed and safe and with people that you trust and you feel like you're a part of those people? When you see yourself from the outside, what qualities do you admire? Or what qualities, if it's really hard for you to admire yourself, what qualities would you imagine that other people admire? Think about who you are in terms of your personality and your strengths and your experience and your humor. What makes you laugh? You know, what makes you smile? What kind of makes you relax and drop all those barriers? Those are an important part of who you are. And then also, and I wanted to put this one separately because a lot of us want to hide this one, but consider your flaws. And yes, your flaws make you likable. When authors, you know, fictional books, when authors create their title character, they often do a lot of in-depth. They decide who the personality of this person is going to be. What are going to be their strengths? What are their superpowers? What are their experience? What is their backstory? And what makes them laugh? And what kind of humor do they have? Who are their best friends? Who did they choose? Where do they come from? All of this type of stuff, they're creating that character. And most authors know that it's super important to put in that character's flaw. And you might think, why would you create a main character with a flaw? And that is that flaw makes them relatable. So think about who you are and even your flaws, and it is okay to just be yourself. You take all those pieces and you mash them together. This is your authentic self. This is your likable self. Maybe not likable by all people. No one ever reaches that pinnacle. Like nobody's likable by all people. Jesus, the best person in the entire world, perfect in every way, only doing good everywhere he went, was not liked by all people, right? A lot of people hated him. So all of that creates this authentic and likable person, likable by your people. So today I decided to model a little bit of this by wearing clothes that I don't typically wear. And I usually have lipstick on, some bright lipstick, but I decided I'm going to mute all this and be kind of like my most authentic self. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me because I want to encourage you to think about yourself in these terms too. You may not want to know about me, but I just want you to think about like, what would you wear in your most authentic self and that sort of thing. So first of all, I've always been a jeans and t-shirt type person. Now, when I worked a corporate job, I wore jeans on Fridays because that was allowed. But all the rest of the days, I wore black slacks and some sort of professional top. I kind of created my own uniform that was easy, but it wasn't like an authentic me, right? It wasn't jeans and a t-shirt and tennis shoes, or since I live in Florida now, flip-flops. Flip-flops are the thing, right? So this particular t-shirt is important. I wore this one on purpose. It says Jesus Chick. And I love this t-shirt. So about 2005, 2006, I had been working for Radio Shack for 15 years and I loved Radio Shack, still do. I think Radio Shack is the awesomest, best. It was a great environment for me. It doesn't really exist anymore in the way that it used to. So in 2005, 2006, I kind of saw the writing on the wall and the company was getting shook up. And I had always thought of myself in terms of that Radio Shack lady. And I started thinking about who my identity was if I didn't have Radio Shack. If I thought of myself as the Radio Shack lady and I was propping up my identity with my job and what I did, you know, where was that going to lead me if that prop, that thing I had leaned again, was going to fail, which of course it did. And so I started adopting this idea of identity being like Jesus chick. So for me, my identity comes from my creator. It comes from Jesus. And I started talking about myself in terms of being the Jesus chick. All of my, online IDs, when you create an ID, I started using Jesus chick as much as possible. And so about 5 years ago, I went into a concert and I saw this t-shirt and I'm like, that's it. That's my t-shirt. So this is the t-shirt that I bought when I was at a Mandisa concert. So this is kind of the most authentic version of me. I am who I am. There are a lot of people who don't like Christians. And I kind of understand, like I've been in the Christian world a long time, and there are definitely some aspects of it that can sometimes use a little bit more polish and tact and kindness. So there are a lot of people who may not like me because of who I am, what I stand for, what I know, how I do things, and that's okay. There are a lot of people, because I am my most authentic self, who can relate. They can relate to the Christian background. They can relate to the religious abuse. They can relate to all the things I've gone through in my experience, and the fact that I still, love God despite that experience and everything else. So there are people who are going to see me at my most authentic self and say, she's my person. And I'm going to say that if that's true, if you find my identity and my authentic self as something that's super relatable for you, it's probably true that I would feel the same way about you. So it's probably true that there are people, when you are your most authentic self, who are going to be drawn to you and love what you have to give in your courses. Anybody who struggled with this, I want to assure you, I've done it myself. I've struggled with it. I still struggle with it. It can be incredibly difficult to step into your authentic self and be that person who's going to present this course. But what's the alternative, right? What is the alternative to being your authentic self? Well, I see two alternatives. One is people will see that courses, logically, it's very, very clear to see that the courses that do well often have personalities where people are their authentic self. And so some people with that knowledge may say, okay, so my course isn't good enough, so I'm going to make it better and better and better. And they get stuck in either perfectionism or analysis paralysis. And the thing that they're trying to perfect is not their course. The thing they're trying to perfect is themselves. But let me tell you, you don't have to perfect yourself before you create your course. Yes, go ahead, create your course, make it good, do the analysis, but don't get stuck there. Be your best self, but don't get stuck trying to make yourself perfect. Go ahead and create that course. So the second group are those people who say, well, I need to present my course. Maybe they don't believe you have to be authentic self. I believe it's a lie of content is king. I don't think content is king. I think connection is king, or queen, as the case may be. So they may get into this trap of presenting content in a very good way. And so they create these courses, but there's none of their personality in it. So what happens with that course? It is often very boring. There's no connection. It's great content. Maybe people might like just how direct it is, but they're not likely to buy another course that you have just because you did it. Where if you create a course with your personality, it's like, I don't know what this course is, but I want another course by Kate. She's awesome. I hope people say that about me. I do have people that I say that about. There's a one lady that anything that she puts out, I want to be there because when she shows up, magic happens. It's so awesome. And that's what I want for you. I want you to show up. I want you to create your course with your most authentic self. And know this, that who you are is incredibly valuable. Don't hide your most important asset. Don't hide who you are behind a fake or bland mask, or by not doing your course at all. That's another way of hiding. I think who you are is awesome. If you struggle with any of this, being your authentic self, then I encourage you to go find somebody you trust and share your struggle with them, and see if you can put your heads together and find some way of unveiling who you are and putting yourself in appropriate spotlighted places so that other people can see what you have to offer. Because not only do I believe every person is valuable, I believe that every person has something that makes the world better when they share it. And courses is just a really, really easy way to share it. So if you have somebody, great, go ahead and do that. If you don't feel like you have anybody to turn to, go ahead and send me an email. My email is in the contact information below, and I would be happy to exchange email with you or encourage you in some other form, because I do believe that you're valuable. I hope you believe that too.